And I also head up the Temple University Entrepreneurship Academy, which is basically focused on facilitating entrepreneurial thinking and doing throughout the university. So I work a lot with School of Fine Arts, Performing Arts, Engineering, Journalism, Liberal Arts, etc. And one of the major initiatives under IEI is our annual Social Impact Summit. And the Social Impact Summit, which I'll talk about in a second, and our whole social impact effort is very much rooted in the words of our founder, Russell Conwell. And he was a social entrepreneur before anyone knew that those words existed. But he was very dedicated to helping the community and helping what I'll call humankind overall. And so this is, among many things, part of the inspiration for the Social Impact Summit. And an important part of that is the Changemaker Challenge. And most of you probably know, or you wouldn't be here, but just to be sure everyone's on the same page, the Changemaker Challenge is a competition open to undergraduate, graduate students, alumni, staff, and faculty from throughout the university or whoever have been at the university. And it is a very preliminary idea competition. And I'm actually reluctant to say competition, I'll say showcase. And we're looking for people who are concerned about an issue in society and have an idea for how to make progress against that idea. And the progress doesn't have to be ending world hunger tomorrow or stopping gun violence in Philadelphia, although both of those are great objectives. The real impact we could have is with a neighborhood, a community, a small group of students or elders or neighbors in North Philadelphia. So if you are concerned about any aspect of society and believe it should be improved and have an initial thought about how to do that, then I strongly urge you to submit to the Changemaker Challenge. And to help you with that, tomorrow evening, we have a mentoring meeting, special mentors to help you with your idea, flush it out, etc. And you could scan the QR code there. And then a week from tonight at 11:59, submissions are due. And please scan there for entry to the submission portal. And again, I encourage anyone with an idea to submit. We have a ton of resources available. And the first resources you'll hear from shortly. And we are willing to work with you. You know, personally, I always say government, nonprofits, individuals have made a difference, but they've spent a ton of money and effort. And if you go back to Lyndon Johnson, The Great Society, before any of you were born in 1964, we've spent over 55 years trying to make things better and throwing billions of dollars at it. And we've made great progress, but there is so much more that needs to be done. And it comes from people like you who have an idea and a commitment to social improvement. So you'll enjoy this evening. I urge you to continue to be involved with us the next couple days. The Changemaker Challenge submissions are next Wednesday, and then the final pitches for the finalists and the final judging will be broadcast virtually on February 24th as part of our Social Impact Summit. And this is a community-wide event, Temple and Philadelphia, where we normally get over 200 attendees. And this year it will be virtual. And our guest speaker is a woman who's a great inspiration to all of us, Dr. Kimberly McLaughlin, who was a high school teacher and then started Grand Boulevard, which is actually a high-end clothing company that does amazing things in terms of employing formerly incarcerated individuals, creating fashion through through existing fabrics, and basically creates no waste in the process. And she's been really a pioneer in going beyond the traditional multi or triple bottom line and really focusing on profits with a purpose. So I strongly urge you to scan this QR code and register. It'll be a great event on the 24th. Okay, so here's another scan. For those of you who are fairly new to the Changemaker Challenge, if you scan this code, there are a ton of resources for you. Guidelines on submitting, videos of all the workshops we did last semesters. Some, I believe, videos of prior pitches from some of the finalists you'll be hearing from today. So again, please scan there. There's a ton of information for you. Okay, so I'd like to introduce our three panelists today. The first is Chloe Hill, who graduated from Klein this past December. And her idea, which we'll be talking about, was FireFinder. And for that, she was a grand prize winner at last year's Changemaker Challenge. Another panelist is Emily Madara, who will be graduating in May. And she won the Crowd Favorite Award in the Changemaker Challenge, and also came in second place in the undergraduate track in the Be Your Own Boss Bowl. And Emily's idea in business is the Sun and Star Collective. So she will be sharing about that. And then last but not least is Ebbo Nuno, who had the idea of Voke. And Ebbo came in first place in the undergraduate track. So we are honored to have the three of them. And I think you'll really enjoy listening to them. Okay, so I skipped that. So let me stop sharing for a minute. So I'm going to start, if I can, with Emily. So Emily, what motivated you to enter the Changemaker Challenge last year?
Okay, so I've known about the competitions even before I was a freshman because I was really interested in the entrepreneurship major. And so I guess my junior year, it was my junior year, I wanted to enter a competition. I always knew I wanted to enter one. And I asked my friend who I met in ESA, the Entrepreneurial Student Association, Caroline O'Keefe, if she wanted to enter the competition with me. So that kind of motivated me to want to enter more because I'd be working on it with somebody else. And then from that point on, we just started trying to think of ideas. And that really just motivated me, is finding my co-founder.
Okay, great.
Emily, Emily, before, and Ebbo and Chloe, if y'all can do this, before Alan asks you the first question, will you just tell us a little bit about your idea or your venture, if that's okay?
Yeah, so my company is called the Sun and Star Collective, and our product is called the Duo Case. It's a double eyeglass case that fits varying sizes of glasses, so from small reading glasses to large frame sunglasses. So yeah, and it's also social impact based, so the case will be made sustainably and in the US.
So Ebbo, a little bit about Voke, and then what motivated you to enter?
Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be here. I'm really excited that, looks like a lot of people showed up, and I'm excited to see more people, get involved in this competition. So Vogue is an idea that came up from the 2020, summer, and all the, sort of the social movements that was happening over the summer, especially surrounding economic empowerment, especially in Philadelphia. Vogue is an app and a platform that allows you to vote your what you're passionate about. The underlying concept being that as consumers, we have the power to choose products and services that are aligned with our values. Now, if you take a look at individual communities, for instance, the minority community is worth something like $4 trillion at this point. The idea is spurred on by the concept that if that $4 trillion was voted towards products and services that were aligned with communities, then social change can happen through that. Now, in terms of what motivated me to come up with this idea, I would say I was more inspired. I was more inspired to not sit on the sidelines any longer. Economic empowerment has been something that I've cared about for a long time, but I always ended up sitting on the sidelines. And as an entrepreneur, I wanted to see how I could use my skills to create an idea that could create change. And that's what motivated me to create that idea.
And Ebbo, just interestingly, when we spoke to Kimberly McLeod, she makes a similar point in an article she published that every day we quote vote with our wallets, and we should be much more conscious and conscientious about who we buy products and services from. So
absolutely. I believe that it's the backbone of effecting change, whether it be your passion to impact the environment, impact our criminal justice system, impact all facets of our economy, all facets of our life, our social lives, communities. I believe that the backbone is consumers using their their power to influence, which is their purchasing power.
Yeah, great. So Chloe, tell us about FireFinder and also about your particular motivation to pursue that idea.
Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Chloe, and yeah, my idea was FireFinder. FireFinder is a long-range fire detection system, which was designed to cater directly towards the needs of firefighters. As a lot of you may have seen on the news or your notifications, there's been a lot of incidents across the country with outbreaks of wildfires and the destruction that they leave behind. It can affect people, it can affect property, it can affect animals and homes and all of that. So it's a huge issue that meant a lot to me, not only because my partner is a firefighter and I learn a lot through him about what he does, but also because of the types of areas these wildfires are destroying. It's important to me that, we, if possible, to put a cap on that and to, some happen naturally, but to decrease the rate or the extent of damage would be amazing. So yeah, my motivation is partly because, my interest in the environment and wanting to cater to the firefighter community that works so hard for us all across the country.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things that Chloe cites is, you know, your motivation or your sort of recognition of an opportunity and desire to deal with it could be very personal. A friend, a family, and we see a lot of that in a lot of the successful entrepreneurs that are coming through Temple. And when I say entrepreneurs, half of them at least are non-business students. So you can get motivation and look for these issues anywhere you basically are having experience. Okay, so Ebbo, you decided to enter. Can you talk to us a little bit about what type of help or resources you received from IEI and other parties to help you go from idea to first place prize?
Sure. So the IEI has been, phenomenal in terms of supporting, my goals and my interests, and helping me, sort of see this idea to a point that has spurred on other ideas for me. Greg Fegley, who heads the IEI, was phenomenal. I, sort of stumbled into one of these Zoom meetings where Greg was mentoring, and he led me to meet somebody else that has become a mentor to me, Rich Richardson, who has extensive knowledge about supply chains and has worked with, GS1 and product identification, which was pivotal to me being able to sort of own this idea and develop it. Aside from that, I think that one of the more important things, aside from the IEI, was also the other colleagues that entered the competition. Hearing about people's ideas, hearing about how people are passionate about, different issues that affect all of us was inspiring for me. It was inspiring for me to be able to see that I was not just sitting alone in a bubble thinking that problems or issues needed to be solved in a certain way, but other people were thinking about it. And that community is what has inspired me, is what, continues to push me as, an entrepreneur.
Great. Chloe, how about you? What resources were you able to take advantage of?
So I definitely took advantage of scheduling meetings or taking the opportunity to get involved in like group discussions or just having a moment of time to talk about my idea, get the confirmation that it's not a crazy big idea or anything like that. So it was really taking advantage of any kind of, situation like this, a panel, a information session, one-on-ones with mentors, being able to, have that feedback was really important. And it really helped build my confidence along the way, because I was extremely nervous about I was 99% not going to do this competition. And then a part of me was like, just do it. Just do it. And then I did it, and I got more confidence as I went through the process. So having the resources of the team itself and just always feeling, confident or comfortable, I should say, to speak to any one of the, people in IEI really helped me a lot. So the people are the best resources, I think.
Great. So Emily, what did you learn from the process of entering the Changemaker Challenge and competing?
I learned so many things. I couldn't even summarize all of them right now, but I would say it's always iterative learning. You're continuously learning with every single new person that you're directed to talk to. You're learning about yourself and how you function and how you work in a partnership, especially for me with the co-founder. And I mean, I learned so much more just obviously having to fill out the application. It really does help you figure out what you really do need to research and what you really need to build upon to be able to make your idea strong enough for the competition. So definitely continuous learning is so important, and definitely using your connections and all the people around you and as the both last panelists said, like all of the amazing resources about the IAI and the people, like use them as much as you can and take their advice, because they really allowed me to build up my business to what it is today.
Okay, good. So Chloe, you're from Klein, and you said you were nervous, you were 99% sure you weren't competing. What did you learn from this experience that sort of helps you as you have now graduated and set out on life?
I think following up on what Emily just said actually is the application process and the part in the competition. I don't know if it'll be the exact same setup this year, but the creating a presentation and creating a sort of dialogue that, dialogue that I felt that I could comfortably understand and speak to with a lot of clarity and a lot of confidence. So I think the main things that I learned was to be, more sure of myself and not to question every little thing. I think it's important. Yeah, it might seem like a crazy idea and maybe people will think I'm crazy, but another thing, so what? It might be a big idea, but it could be the next big idea. And just having the comfort or being comfortable knowing that you can speak to a panel of 2 people or 20 people and clearly explain what you're going to say and have every bit of confidence to answer any question that they come with you at. And I think after you graduate, some of us may be in different parts in our lives, but I think after you graduate, you can take those skills and apply it to your work. You can apply it to any job you intern at or job you're applying for, an interview process, especially if you're interviewing for a new job. I think those skills just stayed with me and it kind of just built my character even more.
Okay, great. Ebbo, I see you shaking your head, so let me give you a chance to answer that same question.
No, I think that Chloe is on point with a lot of the things that she's saying in terms of getting validation and also building confidence. Every moment that I had to talk to somebody else and to, sort of try to explain the idea gave me more confidence because, as I was nodding, people will start nodding and saying, oh yeah, I get what you're trying to do, or oh yeah, I understand it. And I'm starting to think I'm not crazy. This is something that actually resonates with people, and I think that might be the biggest learning that I took from it. In that, the more people you talk to, the more you just put that little idea out, the more you start building confidence about not just whether the idea succeeds or not, but also that it validates your problem solving ability. It validates, so many other things, your presentation skills. It validates the fact that you're able to communicate. And so Chloe and Emily both, kind of amplify the sentiments that I was feeling.
Okay, so I'm going to take what the 3 of you said, and also being totally transparent, all the feedback you got during this process was not all positive. So talk to us about how you dealt with critiques and people saying, that's never going to work, you are crazy. And by the way, it's a fine line between craziness and brilliance. A lot of it's in the eyes of the beholder. But, if each of you 3 of us, and we'll start with Chloe, talk about how you dealt with critique or criticism or rejection. And if you feel you got better at that as a result of the Changemaker Challenge process.
Definitely. I had one person say just openly that they didn't think that it was a feasible idea, which I was like, okay, that was the first time I kind of heard that just kind of blatant, this isn't going to work type of mentality. But I think it was more of I wrote her comments, her questions, I wrote them down on a piece of paper. Anytime someone had a follow-up question when I would explain my idea, If they had a question, it's obviously because I didn't explain something clearly, or something that I could possibly adjust in my idea, or it's something that I could think about. I kind of tried to see it more as a suggestion. It doesn't have to be something you have to take into consideration. Not everyone's right either. That doesn't, just because someone has an opinion doesn't mean that it should direct your future decisions. I just think that don't negate what someone says. They might be right. And I think it's something you should write down, look at. If you can answer it yourself and you have plenty of reasoning behind it, great. If you realize that that they actually might be right about something and there's something you could change, even better, because you just improved yourself, you improved your idea, and you're in a much better standing. So I wouldn't take it too personally. I would just take it as a suggestion to, not necessarily rethink your entire idea, but reconsider where you're going with your idea. And you might turn out to be even more confident, again, than you were before. So just keep a positive mindset and, take it one day at a time is sort of how I took it.
Okay, great. Ebbo, you
Alan.
want to answer the same question?
Alan, it's Lindsay. Can I interject really quick?
Yeah.
So Chloe made a really good point about if somebody had a question about, and I would say almost on your elevator pitch, especially like if you were describing your idea, make sure what they're asking you to clarify gets kind of included in that elevator pitch. And especially if your idea is so technical that it's not, everybody understands fires, everybody understands what, everybody understands that, oh, okay, there's something that can trace, but if there's some real technical part of it that not everyone can understand, make sure that you are breaking that down to explain that to like a 10 or 12-year-old, right? So that anybody who doesn't have that kind of inherent knowledge of your industry or of that application or of how some sort of a software platform would work, that you can explain it to somebody with no prior knowledge. I think that's a really important piece.
Good point. Yeah, absolutely.
Great point, Lindsay. Ellen, to answer that question, I would say that I had to learn how to be comfortable with, the discomfort of trying to explain an idea that was in my head to, people that didn't know me and were not, necessarily going to root for me just because, I was a nice guy. But added to that is the fact that I also learned that whether it was comments or criticisms, there was nobody that was there to see me fail in my idea. And so that was something that was really important for me to know off the bat, that as much as, people, whatever comments that I got, I was looking at it as that people were trying to help me on this journey. And whether I won the competition or not, that was probably going to be some of the most important things that I was going to take from it. That the questions that were asked, the feedback that I was provided, and that I think that that's an important part of going through this challenge. And then lastly, I think one of the things that I also caught on was that if there was a question that was asked, I went back and looked at, my plan and my idea and asked this question: why did I include this specific information that's being questioned in my plan? Or why did I not include the information that's omitted in my plan? And with that, I was able to go back and add additional information or clarify, like Lindsay was saying, the parts that were, sticky for judges or my mentors and so on and so forth.
Okay, great. Okay, so Emily, I'm gonna move forward a little bit. Can you tell us what you've done with your ideas since the Changemaker Challenge?
Yep. So since the Changemaker Challenge, we've competed in the Be Your Own Boss Bowl, which we won second place in the undergraduate track. So that was really awesome because that gave us some more funding money. And then during the summer, we participated in the Startup Studio, which is also run by the IEI, and that was extremely helpful. Really, we just built our ideas to be, I'm not sure what the right word I'm looking for is, but have been able to move much further along on the idea to get where we currently are, which is where we're currently working with an engineer to finalize the design of our product, and we're applying for provisional patent. And I also forgot to mention, we did also do the Innovation Accelerator over the summer after the startup studio, but the startup studio was by far much better, and it was a great experience and has really helped us meet all of the mentors and use all of the amazing resources to build us to where we are today. So hopefully we'll get that provisional patent really soon, and maybe a Kickstarter in the next year.
All right, so Emily, when can everyone in the audience expect to see your product for sale?
Directly to the consumer, would a Kickstarter count?
Whatever, yeah.
Okay, so definitely a Kickstarter. Our ideal is before the summertime. That is our goal, is at least to get a Kickstarter so people can pledge money towards buying a case.
Okay, and do they get a discount if they say they saw you here in this program?
Maybe I'll make an exception. I'll make a discount code for that.
Okay, got it. Chloe, can you tell us what's been going on with FireFinder?
Yeah, so after the Changemaker challenge, I decided that I wanted to conduct further research into my idea. The Changemaker challenge was great just to have the idea and to spark it and to really, get some questions answered, but I really realized that I needed to flesh out even more questions and answers, and I needed to conduct interviews. That was a huge thing, and I wanted to take the time to do that. So I applied for, I don't know if anyone here is in Klein, but I am in Klein, and I applied for their undergraduate summer research opportunity program. It stands like USROP, or it has like a weird acronym, but it's a summer research program that you apply for. And I actually had Alan as my mentor. I asked him to be my mentor, and I basically took the entire summer and then some to conduct a whole bunch of interviews with firefighters and mechanics and all kinds of people from different walks of life, chiefs, engineers from all across the country, California, Texas, Florida. I was conducting national research, and I did that so that I could really get more of the information I was looking for and to really see where there was a need. I knew that there was a need in general, but to really hone in on what were my targets. And I had some surprises along the way. And I thought that was really great that I took those 3-4 months to really, deep dive into it. So it was a really great experience to have that. I ended up doing a full research report for it just to summarize all my ideas into one. So I was able to hand that in as well at the end of the program. And it really just gave me, like I said, a much better idea of the industry and the target, the need, and what my next steps could potentially be. So that was my most immediate change, or my most immediate, accomplishment right after the Changemaker challenge, which I pursued.
Great. And just so everyone knows, the program that Chloe's referring to is actually under, I think, the Assistant Provost for Research, and it's open to any undergraduate who plans on applying for a graduate degree at Temple University. And if I may say so, basically, Chloe got a stipend of, I think, $4,000 or to do research throughout the summer on her project, and then to do a final report, which will be very useful when she applies for her graduate degree. Okay, Ebbo, you want to tell us about Voke and pivots and the rest of life?
Sure, absolutely. So the Changemaker Challenge was exceptional for my personal brand. Going through that and basically being able to prove an idea spurred on my new venture, which is making bean to bar chocolate. Through Vogue, I realized that I needed to understand the supply chain a little better. and also to tackle something that was much closer to, what I knew about. I am from Ghana, and Ghana is the second largest producer of cocoa beans. And, if you know anything about the chocolate industry is probably worth something in north of like 300 billion, and farmers and cocoa farmers get less than $3 billion of that money. So in line with my, passion for economic empowerment, I wanted to go into, this business of making chocolate, high-end chocolate from bean to bar, where farmers, buying beans or sourcing beans from farmers that were paid fair wages, and looking through the whole chain and seeing how I could also use that as an opportunity to tell a better story about, the disparities that exist in that industry. So that has been my pivot. Vogue is still, it's still on the shelf. I am still looking for a developer. I've done a lot of research so far with the idea. I've received a lot of good feedback, basically received a lot of feedback from people saying, I would use this if you were able to make it. So it's, it's an idea that's still there. Over the past fall, I worked with a few temple community groups who are passionate about sustainability, doing things like the green living, and presented the idea to them. So it's something that I'm working on, but on a much slower pace.
And, one of the interesting things as I listen to Ebbo is, number one, a lot of times when you focus on one idea, it also gives you insight into other opportunities. And 3 years ago, pivoting was an entrepreneurial term. Since COVID, pivoting's on the news about 20 times a night. But we all need to pivot in our lives. And the more successful leaders, change makers, are people who understand how to pivot and how to do it very effectively. So it's a great example. Okay, so I have one more question before we go to some audience questions. There are a bunch of hopefully future Changemaker Challenge participants listening to you. Ebbo, what would you tell them? What's the one or two takeaways you want to give them?
So the first takeaway is get to know Alan very well. Alan has been a mentor, and he has been part of my, building my personal brand. But, take, all the help that you can get. Talk to people that you can build relationships with. If somebody has a question, or if somebody has a comment about your idea, go back, rethink it, find out why you believe that a certain part of your idea needs to exist in its form. And if you're very sure about it, be confident about it, and stick with it. If you think it has to be tweaked, take that opportunity to learn from it. You could only make it better. An idea is never, full. It's an evolving thing, and you probably would have to go back to the starting point multiple times. So I'd say don't be afraid of getting comments. Don't be afraid of, hearing what other people say, and, be confident in your ability to make your own decision in the end.
Okay, great. Emily, same question.
Definitely entering this competition takes a lot of time and passion, but it's really worth the experience at the end of the day. Definitely echoing what Ebbo said, is to be confident in your idea and what you're building, and don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. But definitely take criticism when it's needed, right? But I entered this competition knowing that it was a great opportunity to test an idea and win funding, which now has allowed me to jumpstart my a dream of being an entrepreneur. So I'm definitely so thankful for this competition to existing, because I'm not sure if my idea would be without it. So definitely the resources are worth it and the mentors are amazing. So I couldn't say enough great things about the II in this competition.
Okay, great. So Chloe, I'm going to give you the first audience question.
Okay.
I think I have an idea. How do I get started? What do I do with it?
When I got my idea, I was literally like just kind of laying in bed scrolling through social media, and it kind of just popped in my head randomly. I guess, sometimes ideas pop in your head at the weirdest times. And I kind of just asked my partner, I was like, hey, do you think this is a good idea? And he was like, yeah. I was like, okay. So I think just kind of, maybe ask a few people and don't worry about all the questions they might have up front, but just kind of gauge people's interest. And I think if you really want to get started, speak to someone that you feel could help you network. I think that was the biggest thing that sort of shone for me during this process, was how happy I was and thankful I was that I networked the way that I did. I mean, I just obviously the IEI department, but also previous mentors that I knew before I even started this program. I reached out to them and I was like, hey, would you mind helping me with this? Or what do you think of this? And I think that just shows you, everyone always says network, network, but it really does come in handy even when you don't expect it to. So if you really have an idea, don't shut it down and just talk to people you trust. Not trust to sugarcoat things. Talk to people who will give you an honest answer or give you some helpful answers. It doesn't have to necessarily be like a yes or no, just people who you think might help you think about certain questions or think about where you want to go with it. So, yeah.
Okay, good. So Emily, I've known you for about 3 years. And it's like every day when I see you, you have another idea. And so I guess the question is, how do you come up with those ideas? And how do you decide which ones are worth pursuing?
That's a very good question. Yes, I've always had lots of ideas and I always write them down, which I've always found to be really helpful to look back on. That's actually what I did originally for the Changemaker Challenge, is I went down that list, but I couldn't find one that I thought fit this competition. So definitely I just think of design thinking a lot. I use that technique to try to figure out what I could fix or alter to make life easier. That's kind of, I see a lot of things as like convenience, because convenience sells. So that's also how I actually thought about the duo case. Actually, I just saw my mom struggling with two big bulky eyeglass cases because she has prescription, regular and prescription sunglasses. And I just saw a convenience issue, and that's how the duo case was kind of born. So that's what I personally look for in a lot of problems that I have, is convenience, or problems I see others experience. So I think maybe pick try to find out daily problems that you or others might experience. And that's how I really think you can develop a strong idea.
Okay, great. So Ebbo, you have an idea. How do you bring it to life? Because ideas are great, but if you're the only one who knows about them or the remaining ideas. So, go on.
To echo what Emily and Chloe have said, you need to you talk to somebody. Find somebody, talk to them about the idea. Find somebody that would give you 5 minutes and say, hey, just listen to me. And my poor wife has borne the brunt of that. And I've always say, okay, I just need 5 minutes, just 5 minutes of your time to hear this out. And I watched the way she responds to it, and sometimes it falls flat and other times it doesn't. But talk to somebody about it. But I think more than beyond that, beyond just talking to somebody, write the idea down. Sort of take a look at the idea and figure out if it is solving a crucial need, if it's solving a problem that somebody might be willing or might be needing to be solved. For me, in terms of social entrepreneurship, is there a larger social impact or is there a larger social problem or need that needs to be solved, and how are other people solving it? And making my idea a little bit more unique than all the solutions that have been offered so far. And I think that that's where you get that's where I get to, you know, creating that idea that I feel I can talk to somebody about.
Okay, so I have to ask you this question because you have a 3 or 4-year-old daughter.
Yes.
Is she good to talk to about your ideas?
She is phenomenal to talk to. Actually, you know what? Scratch what everything that I said. Every idea I have is hers. She gave, no, I'm just joking. But no, it's, you know, it is amazing. On a very personal note, you know, I'm also, you know, you know, stay at home dad with my child, and or primarily, and that has allowed me to look at things in a very specific way from the eyes of somebody that is trying to learn from the environment around them. And I think that that's an important thing for an entrepreneur, that, you know, squashing a lot of the assumptions that I bring as an adult, and just looking at a problem or an issue or a topic from a very simple, you know, point of view. Why does it work this way? What can be changed? And what can I do about it? I think that those are the words that my daughter would say if she could. But that's, Alan, thank you for bringing that up. But yes, it's, you know, those are the very simple parts of my idea generation process.
Okay, so by the way, for everyone in the audience, chat a question. If you have one, we just received one. How do you find people who could help you implement the idea if you don't know those people, if your network doesn't include people with the required skills?
Can I ask a
To
follow-up?
say that particular person, sorry for interrupting, Emily, should join Startup Tree, which is like LinkedIn for entrepreneurs and is free to Temple University students and alumni. But that would be my first recommendation.
When implement, do you mean like creating the actual like product or service?
Well, like an example that she gave us, she has an idea, but no one to build the prototype.
Oh, got it. Okay, so I could answer this because I have no technical skills, and I this is how I did it. So I have no technical skills. I'm an entrepreneurship student. I knew I had a drawing of the case, and I just was thinking, I said, well, who do I go to for this? So my partner is actually an engineering major here at Temple. So I asked him if he knew anybody that could use the CAD software. I did a little bit of Googling, found that you need CAD to be able to build this on a 3D printer. So I asked him to find one of his friends. He found one of his friends, paid the kid, asked him to make it for me. Then I took that and I went to the II and I said, what can I do to get this built? They said, go to the makerspace in the Charles Library. So I went to the Charles Library, worked with David Ross in there, and he helped us 3D print our first model, which is right here. So definitely connections and networking is how I found all of my connections, whether it was through a mentor through the IEI. Actually, my mentor, Tom, who I met through the IEI, he has helped us find the engineering company that we're currently working with now because he's a mentor for their startup. So I've honestly found all of the ways that I need to find resources and suppliers, just like our fabric. That was through my aunt because I said, hey, do you know any fabric companies in New York? So definitely all of mine were through connections. So definitely ask anyone you know questions about things and you'll be surprised who knows who.
Okay, great. I have another one. What are some of the challenges you faced and how did you overcome them? Chloe, you want to go first?
The first thing that popped in my head are we speaking specifically to this Changemaker challenge
Yeah,
or just in, okay.
well, your FireFinder idea.
Okay. One specifically for the Changemaker challenge was time. I did the best I could with that. I think once that ended and I started pursuing my research, my biggest challenge was now all of a sudden I had a whole bunch of time. So now it was figuring out who to talk to. So essentially, building off what Emily says, it's figuring out, you know, asking the right questions. And like she said, exactly, you would be extremely surprised who has connections with who. It'd be extremely unlikely. But I think just being able to stay disciplined and stay on track, I think that's incredibly important. Obviously, you don't want to give up, you know, your work-life balance. But sometimes it's easy to get distracted. So really having a plan for the day or plan for your project, write down your goals, and every day or every week check off, you know, I did this, I still have this and this and this to do, and this is how I'm going to approach it. So having a plan and being honest with yourself and where you are will really help you to just kind of stay focused, even if you have other things going on in your life, other distractions, other things that you're passionate about. If you stay on a good track, you will feel like you're making progress no matter what. And I think it's okay to feel like you're kind of in a stalemate, or sometimes you feel like, oh, you know, I don't know what to do, or I just feel stressed out. You know, just kind of take some time for yourself, you know, maybe a day, give yourself a day, but get back on track and keep that to-do list on, you know, in front of you, and have that sort of positive, you know, proactive approach to your, you know, your plan. That was sort of my biggest challenge, was just sort of making sure I stayed on track and succeeded on all my to-do lists. But I did, so that was good.
Okay. Ebbo, how about you? What were some of the biggest challenges you faced?
Well, I think that the biggest challenge, you know, for me is, what do you do next after this competition? Is something that I think has to be given a little bit of thought. So either you win it or you get a lot of feedback. Either way, you've won it. You know, just getting that feedback, I believe, submitting an idea, getting that feedback is a win, you know, either way. But what do you do after this? I think, you know, for me, that was the challenge in navigating who to talk to next, what was the most viable thing to do with the idea after this process is, you know, was I would say was far more challenging than actually submitting the idea itself, because here you are, you have an idea that you believe in, and others have told you that it's a worthwhile idea. What do you tackle next? How do you find your partners? And that's, I think, to go back to what Lindsay said, startup tree, talking to, mentors, finding people that have been where you are, that can give you not just, like not just guidance, but speak from experience of what they faced and how they overcame it, or how they did not overcome it. What choices they made in that, at that point. I think that, is critical. If I were to go back and do it again, I think that I would treat that part, I would put more emphasis on that part as well.
Okay. All right. So Emily, you're going through this process, you're making progress, but you mentioned everything is iterative, right? So you think you're in good shape and you hit a wall. You think you're in a good shape and there's a curve when you're expecting a straightaway. How do you deal with that? How do you stay motivated and keep on progressing?
Well, one of my favorite things to do is ask questions. So I guess I just asked myself those questions, and I just remembered that, well, my ultimate goal is, and my ultimate goal is to be my own boss, to be my own entrepreneur, and to build something that that adds value and does well for society. So I kind of always keep that in mind, that this is my baby and I just want to keep growing. So that's honestly how I've just stayed motivated, and it's something I built that I'm really proud of, and I don't want to let it go. So I try to just remember that this is like my passion and my hobby, and whatever I can do to build it, I will. I kind of forgot the second part of your question.
How do you stay motivated?
Oh, that's how I stayed motivated then.
Okay. How about you, Chloe? How do you stay motivated?
I stay motivated by, I guess, keeping in tune with, like Emily, like what's my end goal? And I think I have a few, and I think one of them is just, I've always had this need inside to make a difference, but I think it took so long for me to figure out, how did I want to make a difference? How did I want to do that? What's important to me? And I knew there were a lot of things that were important to me, but what could I do? What could I spearhead essentially? And so I stay motivated, I guess, by remembering, it sounds kind of cheesy, but remembering my why. Like, why am I doing what am I doing? Why am I staying up till 3 a.m. to do this? Why am I calling dozens and dozens of people and conducting interviews and that take a while and it takes up a lot of time? Why am I doing that when I can be doing something else? And I think it's just remembering it's because I knew that I wanted to make a difference. I knew that this community is who I want to help. And it's remembering the long-term goal. And I think if you can just, be upfront with yourself and kind of figuring out, are you passionate about your idea? Is it something you can see yourself doing long-term, or you can see it meaning a lot to you over a long period of time? That's what will keep you motivated. If it's just something that's kind of like a phase and you don't really care, or think of something else that really resonates with you and that you can passionately pitch. Because with this challenge that you're going to be doing, or any kind of thing you might be doing in the future, you've got to give a pitch. And in a job one day, if you decide to go a different route, you might have to give a business pitch. Having the ability to not only be professional, but to sound like you care, to know that you care about what you're talking about, will really resonate with the people you speak to. So I think it just, remembering your why and remembering the long-term ramifications of, what you're doing day to day.
Yeah. And if I could just add on to that, especially when we're talking about social good. And for those of you who aren't sure it's worth the effort, or if you know what you're doing, if you could help 1, 2, 10, 20 people or families, there's an old saying that if you make one person smile, you make the whole world smile. Because for that one person, you have changed their world. So I think the whole thing about why, and none of you would be here, and the 3 winners would not be speaking today, if at the end of the day, they didn't have passion for the social and in socials, environmental causes that they were all dedicated to. Okay, I'm going to ask one last question of each of you. So I'm in the audience, and hey, this Changemaker Challenge sounds good, but I don't know anything about business, and I really don't have an idea well thought out. What's your advice for me? Because, there's this organization, IEI, and this guy, Kersner, who keep on emailing us and urging us to submit. So let's start with you, Ebbo. What's your advice for those people who are saying, I'm not sure?
I'll say that if you take a look at what's going on in the world right now, and all the issues that the world has, and also this movement where businesses, both small businesses and large businesses, are starting to pay attention to what people think about and what sort of impact businesses can be used in order to create change. You start to get the sense that every idea in order to effect change is important. And so, whether you believe in your idea or not, this the Changemaker Challenge is a way for you to to put a solution out, to offer a solution to a problem that you care about. So if you're passionate about something that maybe nobody has heard about, there's so many issues, so many needs, niche needs that people don't understand. And maybe you have an insight, you have a specific insight that could be that could be beneficial for people to hear. And I want, the audience to consider that, so that whether or not, it's fleshed out, just understanding that moving that idea forward 1 inch could possibly inspire the solution for something bigger in the future. That's what I constantly think about. And I would like to impress that upon people to use that as a guide, whether or not they feel their idea is, worth something. It is worth something. It's, you thought about it, you have a specific insight, and I think that it's important to solve a lot of the issues that we face.
Emily?
Okay, so if I was in this person's position, I would, one, get more involved with IAI. So that's joining the 1810 Accelerator, joining ESA, talking to people like Alan and Greg. And then I guess I would also try to figure out what you're passionate about and look for issues within that. And then also just talk about that idea to others, as all of us panelists have been saying this whole time. Really talking to other people is the best way to figure out like how viable your idea is, if people are interested in it, does it make sense, and also to figure out if you're truly passionate about that idea too. But definitely enter the idea competition for if you wanted to test it out for whoever that person is.
Chloe?
I would definitely say pursue a one-on-one conversation with someone that, speaks to your values or speaks to, sort of your approach to what you want to be doing. Of course, might not have a solid, idea yet, or you might not have a solid plan. That's fine. But I think for me, the most helpful was having one-on-one time and getting that one-on-one attention to really, get the words out, even if they're messy or don't, you can't clarify what you need to say yet, but at least you can talk to someone. And speaking to, I'm sure Alan or Lindsay or Greg would be more than happy to help you. And just, you can do email, or, you can find others as well on LinkedIn. As Lindsay said, there is Startup Tree as well. And you don't have to necessarily know everybody on Startup Tree to ask a question or to, make that. You can just say, hey, I have this idea. Does anyone have any ideas or feedback, or, does anyone have any connections? So I think just, be brave, have the initiative to just talk to someone. I think that'll be really helpful. And yeah, Emily is right. Temple connections are super strong. Everyone's really helpful, even alumni, you don't have to talk to just students who are in your same exact class or in your same exact grade. Talk to someone above you, talk to someone who's a teacher, or, alumni like maybe like Ebbo and I who we've graduated, but we're still more than happy to help. So just don't be afraid to, just take that leap of faith and just ask someone. Yeah.
Okay, great. I don't see any other questions from the audience. So I would like to thank the three of you. You were, as always, great. And now we all know why you won your competitions and will continue to be successful. I guess I need to put up the suitable code, correct? Can you see the QR code for suitable now? The other thing I will put in, I'll put in the chat my email. I am available the next 4 days to spend some time with you personally. If you have an idea and just want to talk it through, I'd be glad to talk to you about that. And anyone else have any questions? Anything they want to say?
And I was just going to say thanks to everyone for the opportunity. And once again, I'm very inspired by everyone that came here. If you want to get in touch with me, Alan has my contact information. And I'll be happy to talk to anybody at all. You know, a lot of people helped me through this journey and are still helping me through the journey. And I'd love to hear people's ideas and help where I can.
Great. Okay, good.
feel the same way.
Yep. Okay, so Chloe and Emily put their emails in chat. Thank you. All right, great. So I hope next year, well, we will have this, and I look forward to seeing some of you in the audience on the winners panel next year. Lindsay, anything you want to say to wrap up? Nope. All right. Have great nights, and hopefully, oh, Dylan, go on.
Go ahead, Dylan.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you guys for your time and presenting and stuff. It was very nice and informative. I had no idea what this was, and I'm glad that I came. I learned a lot. But thank you guys so much. Also, I didn't get a chance to get the suitable thing. Would you mind going back so I could try and grab that, please? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so I'll put that back up, and everyone else, thank you. And